kitty temptations here to add some interest to this video, since it is about a cat. I thought, since it is about a cat, I thought I would add some kitty temptations. So yeah, I'm going to feed my cat grass and explain this video to you guys. So I started out this video, or this tutorial, thinking in terms of I want to do something relaxing, simple, fun, lighthearted, just to enjoy watercolor painting, and to create a tutorial for my Patreon students that was more relaxing and not so complex, because a lot of the paintings that I've been doing on my Patreon have been really complex. So I did this painting specifically for them because it is a more simple tutorial, simple painting. I did this painting in a morning and I enjoyed it. It was so fun, and plus I am on my own artistic journey of trying to paint looser and looser, and most of my students are too. So this was the perfect painting for us all to get together, and I wanted to share it with you guys too. And by the way, I'm thinking about adding paint dots to one of my tiers on Patreon, maybe the $13 and above tier. So I would love feedback from you guys. Like, if you're hesitating to join my Patreon, I'd love to hear what it is that would help you, help it make it worth it to you guys, because I love teaching and I definitely want to make it worth it to my students to be on my Patreon. So anyway, let's talk about this painting. I'm going to tell you everything I did, all my paint colors, and kind of how I approached it. And right here, I'm doing the masking. And to do masking, you see I'm scrubbing my paintbrush in the soap. So I get my paintbrush wet, I scrub it in soap, and that protects the bristles from the masking if it dries out. So that's a nice little trick to use. And here I'm using a little rigger, a script liner. Any kind of liner, script brush would work for doing the whiskers. So I'm masking out the whiskers, and I'm using removable, did you hear me? Removable. I made that mistake. That's why I remember to always remind you guys, get removable masking. Don't get permanent masking. You don't want that. And so get removable masking. I'll show it to you guys. I think I showed it in the video, but it's that one. What do you think, Kitty? Do you want some removable masking? No, she doesn't want that. She wants more grass. But if I feed her more grass, she's gonna barf. And who wants to clean up barf on a Saturday morning? Not me. Not me, Kitty, not me. So I'm carefully masking in the whiskers, and I talk a lot. This actual tutorial on Patreon is an hour long, so you get a lot more information about exactly how I do the whiskers. One thing, for example, is when I do a whisker, I don't make one long straight line every single time. Some of the lines are broken, so I'll make a whisker and then stop it and then finish the whisker out here, so it's not one long straight line. It just adds interest and realism for some reason for some of the whiskers to be broken up as if they're disappearing. Parts of them are disappearing into the shadows. And if you look at reference photos of whiskers, they do actually do that. So the next step after the masking dries, you gotta let the masking dry. It takes about 5 minutes. You put water everywhere you want the paint to be. And so on this painting, that would be right in here. You don't want water. This stays dry. This paper never sees a wet drop of water. You keep all that dry, but everywhere else gets wet. And then I put little details in the ears, so you see where these really white edges are on the ears. I painted carefully, negatively around those. Now you can use masking for that, but I would suggest that you just paint clear water around them. And this is all going to be a really quick painting. So we're going to do the whole background in one go. As you can see, the colors I'm using are Holbein Bright Violet, Holbein Antique Turquoise is that Caribbean color, Permanent Green Light, Windsor Green Gold. For the orange, I used Aureolin and Naphthol Red. Again, did I say Daniel Smith Permanent Green Light, that's a great color. I have it on my palette. Windsor Green Gold, I have that on my palette. Holbein Turquoise, I do not have on my palette all the time. And Holbein Bright Violet, I do not have on my palette all the time. But for this painting, I wanted to be bright and cheerful, so I used it. And also Windsor Green Gold is one I always have on my palette. And so as you can see, when I did the background, I blocked in the larger colors. I didn't put dab blue, dab green, dab violet. I put a block of violet down here, a block of antique turquoise here, a block of permanent green light down here, and so on and so forth. So it's not dabbed at, it's got big transitions of big areas of color. So that keeps the background really interesting, and as you can see, I painted it wet and wet. So my paint consistency was about milk consistency that I painted into the clear water on my paper. And now as the paper dries, I can go in and put in little details. I put in the eye, the first brush strokes of the eye were done on semi-wet water for that one eye, and the other one's of course on dry paper because it's on the white of the cat. And then I splashed a little bit of water into the moist background while it was semi-dry, but still a little moist. If you splash the water when it's still really wet, the water will just disperse and you won't see any textures. But do you see how I have little dots of dapples in the background? That's from splashing clear water at just the right moment when the paper is somewhat drier than it was at the beginning. If you do it when it's too wet, it won't make those little dapples. And then as the paper dries, you can go in with thicker paint and do the smaller details. Like the nose was a combination of Naphthol red and a little bit of Oriole, and I kept all the colors really bright, which I don't usually do, but I wanted this painting to be fun. You can tone it down some and it would still look really great, I think. And then I just add little details on the face with thicker milk consistency paint, fill in some shadows, putting in some bright violet in there on the cat to kind of say, I put the bright violet on the cat, even though of course a cat doesn't have bright violet on it, but I wanted to tie it into the background. And you see how I did those soft edges earlier, I hope. I painted them all at the same time. So I didn't treat an edge like an edge, like I paint carefully up to this edge with this and paint up. No, you just kind of let it all merge over and around each other. Putting in some more bright violet there up there in the corners because I wanted to balance out that bright violet. It's a strong color, and I had some down in this corner down here, and I wanted some up in this corner to kind of balance it out. Now I'm taking off the masking. You want to take off your masking when you know you won't be doing big areas of color behind those whiskers anymore. You don't need to save the whites of the whiskers because you won't be painting over them anymore. That's when you take the masking off. And then I go in with my scrubber. This is something I always do. I always soften those last little details that's where the whiskers go into the face. I soften right there. I soften along his upper lip where it meets the dark of his lower lip because that was a hard edge and it just looks a lot better if it's softer. And I softened a little bit along the edge of his face. So I talk a lot about scrubbers in my other videos, so be sure to refer to those. And I talked about loose edges in my other videos. I talked about milk, cream, and tea consistency in other videos. I've got videos specifically about those subjects, so be sure to check those out if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. I'm just putting in finishing touches, a little bit more bright violet over there to balance out that diagonal of violet. Parker just woke up, so much for my clean voiceover. That's okay though, you guys now know because I just published my day in the life video. You know why. There's a little bit of noise. It's 9 o'clock, it's time for me to wake up. And by the way, if you do want to watch this tutorial with a downloadable traceable, join my Patreon. You'll get a downloadable traceable and it's a whole hour video long in detail where you can paint real time with me as I explain. So we have a lot of fun over there too. So I would love for you to join me there. I release new videos every Tuesday and Thursday, so be sure to subscribe and turn on your notification bell so that you get notified whenever I upload a new video. And I decided to sign this in the bright violet because I thought it balanced out the rest of the violet highlights in this painting. And that's my new painting and my old printout of my old painting over there. So I was just comparing them here and explaining to my students some of the highlights, and then I add a little bit more orange on the cat's right side, our left, just to make that shadow stand out a little bit more, that his face is half in shadow, and make the light a little bit more dramatic. You always want to go for drama when you can. And I could have developed this painting a lot more, but I did want to keep it simple. So I hope that was helpful to you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and stay tuned because a lot more is coming. Okay.